All right, welcome back to another episode of the Karter Cast. I'm your host, Karter. Baughan. With me as always, Chase. NBA show. I thought we were done with NBA shows, but NBA draft time, little podcast show, update scheduling. Connor's not here, vacation. Whatever. He's always on vacation. I don't know what it is. We're out here grinding. It's like 8 a.m. Mountain Time, trying to get this NBA draft show out. Adam Stanko, I got word last night he's not coming on draft shows. We're going to do a draft, like not NBA draft, but just a draft show, and we're going to do a different discussion, but we're not going to do NBA draft stuff with Stanko. That'll be a later episode coming out probably sometime in July. And but before we get into today's episode about the NBA draft and the Mikal Bridges trade and everything, we are brought to you by SeatGeek. Download the SeatGeek app or go to SeatGeek.com for $20 off your first purchase. Use code KarterCast. $50 minimum purchase required. Terms and conditions to apply. Use code KarterCast at SeatGeek.com or download the SeatGeek app today for your next show or concert. All right, let's get into the show. That was a lot. That was no ers or ums. No ers or ums. I was proud of myself.
You killed that. Yeah, that was a great read.
A little fast, but hey, shout out Gatorade Fast Switch. All right. Let's start with the Mikal Bridges trade. Knicks get Mikal Bridges, a 2026 second-round pick. The Nets get Bogdanovich, 4 first-round picks, a 2025 first-round pick, a 28 pick swap, and a 25 second-round pick. It's a lot. When Woj tweeted out, we were just talking before I hit the record button. Woj tweeted it out, and I was like, what's happening here? Then he's also tweeting out a Nets-Rockets trade, and he's like, Durant might go to the Rockets. Like, is he going to the Rockets, or is he not going to the Rockets? And then, excuse me, and then Durant's going to the Rockets, and then all of a sudden he's like, oh, by the way, Devin Booker might be going to the Rockets. And then he tweeted out something this morning just now where, Devin Booker, the Rockets like him. I'm like, what are we doing here? Or is he going or is he not? Like, let's stop this charade of the Rockets like Devin Booker and they're trading these first-round picks. Like, just make it simple. Just put it on a simple graphic and say this is what's happened, and then come out and say the Rockets are trying to get him. We don't know if he is. Instead of they're zeroing in. He's a front runner to be a Rocket kind of thing.
Yeah, Woj is like that girl in middle school who's just like spreading rumors a little bit, trying to aggregate things.
They're getting a little NBA draft time. Him and Shams become the most annoying people on the internet, in my opinion.
Yeah,
because NBA free agency, fine, that's their thing. NBA draft stuff bothers me so much because, like, it's like, why do I watch the draft anyways? Because the draft board's going to be posted later that night. But, like, you're watching the draft, and it makes the coverage so bad because he has to get that scoop out there. So then they're like, we're going to go to Woj for the 8th pick of the draft. He's like, and by the way, the Portland Trailblazers are zeroing in on Cody Williams. It's like, what are we doing? Stop this. This makes the draft miserable.
Right. And I think it's underestimated, and people have, like, pointing this out on Twitter and stuff, their influence on draft odds is huge because they're pretty much the only point of reference, right? It's what do these guys report?
And so they're working for effing sports books, ESPN, Bet, and FanDuel. Like, that's who they're getting paid by.
Exactly. And so when Shams tweets out that, the Wizards are really like looking at Alex Sarr, then the odds that like completely swing that way, and he's the favorite to go there now, which it's like, okay, it could be true or it could be just Shams heard something.
The most egregious example was last year when it's like the Hornets are going to get Scoot Henderson like right before the draft, and then the whole time before that it was Brandon Miller, and they're like, nope, Scoot Henderson, just because FanDuel may have wanted some money on Scoot Henderson going so they can, dabble in more and get some more money out of people. But anyhow, we'll do NBA draft stuff in a little bit. We don't need to complain about Woj and Shams right now. Mikal Bridges to the Knicks. How do we like it?
For the Knicks, I think it's great. Obviously, you get all the Nova boys together. That's the big story. A lot of chemistry there. Team of friendship, or the power of friendship, I guess you could say. But what did the Knicks need, right? They needed another long-scoring defensive wing, and Mikal Bridges fits that to a T. He brings, obviously, his presence on the ball, being able to create his own shot, right next to Brunson, right? He could also play off the ball as a shooter, and I think him and all those guys are going to work really well together. The big thing is defensively, being able to kind of maybe stay in front of some of these guys that the East has, loaded with wing talent. And I think, Waz tweeted out, like, they're gearing up to compete with the champion Celtics, which is like, it's not for you to report, just report the facts, dude. But that, that is kind of what they're trying to do. And Mikal's like, great. I think as far as trades could go, this is about as good as they could do. Now, the price for him, we can get into a little bit. But as far as the fit for the Knicks, I love it. I think it's a great trade.
I'll talk about on the Nets side. I like what the Nets are doing too. The Nets were going nowhere. Nothing was happening with the Nets. Obviously, Ben Simmons is going to get traded at some point this whether it's a buyout or trade or whatever it may be. They're going to bottom out like we've never seen, and they're all in on the Cooper Flag sweepstakes, which is the right move. Like if you want to reach a championship level, you need championship level players. It's that simple. And you're not going to win with the 7th pick in the draft. Typically, you're not. Like look at the Celtics, prime example. We always look at the last champion of they're the example of what it takes to win.
Right.
Look at the Celtics. Like Nikola Jokic is not going to happen again in the second round. That's once in literally the history of the NBA that's ever going to happen. And you need to look at, hey, we need picks 1, 2, and 3 to be successful, especially in a loaded class coming up. They're gonna be right in the mix for Cooper Flag. I think it's a great trade for the Nets too, but the price, man, that's a hefty price for the Knicks.
It's crazy. I mean, 5 first-round picks, 4 of them unprotected, a couple of second-rounders. Obviously, you get Bogdanovich in there, which is, he's an old asset and probably was more of just like a contract, and I expect him to be moved pretty quickly by the Nets. But those picks are valuable, and if we've seen anything over the past few years, talking about the Celtics, right, that did this to the Nets, those can turn into something pretty valuable. I mean, the Knicks are good now, but 29-31, right? You never know where that franchise is going to head, especially because it's the Knicks, right? They're still New York Knicks. You never know. Those could be great picks in the future.
Yeah, and like typically when we talk about these trades, you always want to do it to where like you always have that one dumb person in your fantasy football league where you're like, all right, we can try to mess with him on trades. Like like someone gets announced with an injury, but you text this guy right away. You're like, hey, by the way, like I don't know, do you want Jamal Charles? I can give you Jamal Charles, and you're like. He's like, isn't Jamal Charles retired? Like, no, dude, he's actually coming back. He's going to be the starting running back for the Chiefs. Like, we always want there to be that trade where someone just gets absolutely fleeced. But I don't think this is an absolute fleece. Like, I think the Knicks are taking a smart gamble here. Because the main reason I like this trade, it's not because, like, I like Mikal Bridges a lot, but the chemistry is a lock. You don't have to worry about that. He's going to fit in like a glove. He fills that need he fills a need, and also like the chemistry factor. And it's not like you're trading for a Rudy Gobert or, I mean, Kevin Durant. Yes, he's that next level superstar where he's unbelievable. But there are question marks around Kevin Durant. You know what you're getting with Mikal Bridges, and this does put you into the conversation with Boston. They go if both teams are healthy, Knicks get some bigs. That's a competitive series at least. I'm still taking Boston for sure, but that's a 6-7 game series if both teams are healthy, and that's all you can really ask for.
Right. I think it's pretty clear to me and obvious that the Knicks kind of looked at the East, looked at their situation, and this is obviously a win now move, right? They've traded away their entire future, as far as picks go,
and they should.
Right, and because the East is open. Like other than Boston, the number 2 spot in the East is up for the taking, and I think the Knicks have kind of tentatively grabbed it, unless the Bucks can really come back strong next year. And so, as far as that goes, like you're New York, right? That you have momentum. You haven't been good in a very long time. You have all these stars they love. You have this chemistry. This is a great move. I know Knicks fans have to be excited. You don't think about the picks, Karter, when you throw it away.
Should they?
Right.
And the other thing is, like you mentioned, the East is terrible. If you're looking at the East right now, especially after this trade, and assuming the Knicks, they'll probably lose Hartenstein and they'll bring in another big, and they'll probably trade Randall or somewhat figure that out. But you look at the East right now, the Knicks are I think are a clear number 2 in the East. I would take them over the Bucks because I don't trust Damian Lillard as an aging 6'1" guard, and I don't trust Middleton, who seems like he's on the very end of his prime. And Giannis, like, he's had health concerns recently. Like, at what point, I think if Giannis has one more kind of major injury where it keeps him out of the playoffs, we start looking at Giannis kind of like how we look at Embiid in the playoffs or Kawhi Leonard in the playoffs, where we're like, all right, man, like, you got to be healthy for this time of year. Like, we've done this for 2-3 years in a row now. This can't happen again.
Yeah, I mean, people have said it before, but like that Giannis 21 championship has really, really helped, because the conversations we'd be having about him right now would be pretty nasty.
Yeah, and he would not be in Milwaukee.
No, No, he wouldn't.
If he doesn't win that title, he is out of Milwaukee because he would have to face the scrutiny that kind of like Jason Tatum faced, where it's like, yeah, he can't win. He's not clutch. Blah blah blah.
Right.
And then now he feels comfortable enough. I can stay in Milwaukee my whole career if I want to, and I can be a Dirk-like legend, and I'll go down in the history books and whatnot.
Exactly.
But he's got to get healthy. But yeah, I'm taking the Knicks number 2 in the East. Like Philly, even if Philly, let's say Philly gets Paul George, they might be on the same tier as the Bucks.
Yeah, it's also because it's Philly, and you can't trust the Sixers or Embiid in particular, right, to be healthy. And people say, well, look at the Knicks. Those guys are generally pretty healthy, right? It was just this playoff run. All those guys had played like 40 minutes a game the entire season, all to 82, right? They need to figure that out. Tibbs needs to be a little bit better about substitutions and giving these guys rest when he can, and then playing them when it really matters. Because if that team's healthy, Karter, I don't see a world where they don't go to the Eastern Conference Championship and face up with Boston, right?
And then that's going to be an awesome series if both teams are healthy. Like,
yeah.
If you tell me, you play that series out 10 times and everybody's healthy, even though we haven't seen what the Knicks look like with Mikal Bridges, but we can kind of see it because, we watch Villanova. but
right.
I would take the Knicks 1 or 2 times out of 10.
Yeah. No, they playing in the Garden for 3 games. You never know.
I think Knicks series price would be like plus 180, plus 200. Like it's not like an insane upset if the Knicks beat the Celtics in a 7-game series now, and that's all you can ask for. Brad Stevens went on Russillo's show yesterday, and I listened to it. And he's like, all we cared about was just as long as we're in the mix for a title, and that's all you can ask for. The Knicks are genuinely now in the mix for an NBA title. If they make the finals, they have a legitimate shot at winning the title. So, it's not like those Heat years where you're like, okay, we know the Heat aren't going to win the title. We just know it. But they genuinely have a shot to win the finals, and that's all you can ask for. And I think it's worth mortgaging your future, and I think it's a great trade by the Nets too.
Yeah, I agree. And I think we need to get this out here now. Like, we like what the Knicks did. In a couple, and if 4 years from now it could not work out, right? Mikal could tear his ACL, Brunson can get upset and leave, and we'd be like, oh my gosh, they just got fleeced. Like, that was the dumbest trade in NBA history. Like, no. This is the moment right now. They've done exactly what you just said, Karter. They're in the mix. Like, they're easily one of the top 4 teams in the league, and we'll see how they look together. But as far as it's presently constituted, they've done their job, right? And they've brought the basketball back to the city, and fans are super excited, and they look in a great position for next season. So they did. Look, the price was high, and I think it's a win-win because I think both teams got what they wanted. But as far as on the Knicks side, I like what they're doing. And they're doing what NBA franchises should, right? It's go after guys and be competitive and try to win. And, give a crap about your team. I'm looking at the Bulls, right? You give a crap about your team and do what you're supposed to do. So, shout out the Knicks.
And that they're not doing that half-hearted, we're all in. Kind of like what, I know it's a Hornets thing, but when the Hornets signed Gordon Hayward, you're like, why are the Hornets signing Gordon Hayward to a max deal? What's going on? Are they all in? Is this their idea all in? The Bulls, they're like, they're trading a young, rising talent in Wendell Carter and picks for Nikola Vucevic, who's on the end of his prime. They're all in. What are we doing here? So, yeah, I think the Pacers are kind of that example right now where you're like, I guess they're all in, but I don't like their version of being all in. Right.
Well, it's is Siakam the best they can get? And New York has the advantage of being a desirable location, and obviously it was reported that
their thing is they're not even getting guys in free agency besides Brunson, and the whole Brunson thing was just because of his dad.
Right, and Dallas really mucked it. I think Dallas legitimately could have held on to Brunson, but maybe they're happy with the way it worked out. Although I doubt it. If you watched the playoffs, you're a Mavs fan, you're happy that Brunson left. But you did go to the finals. But it was obvious and reported that Bridges wanted to go to New York, and so New York has that advantage of being able to just get it done. But it's a great trade.
Could you imagine being a Villanova basketball fan that's also a Knicks fan in the NBA? This is a dream scenario. Imagine, it's if I was a Hornets fan and all of a sudden Zion Williamson and Kyrie and all these Duke guys are playing on the Hornets. It's unbelievable, and they're actually good, and they're competing for an NBA title. It genuinely fits, and it's good. That team won a title together. If you're a Villanova Knicks fan, it's the greatest thing in the world right now.
Yeah, like, can we get Chris Jenkins like a 10-day contract
Yeah.
just for kicks?
Yeah, it's like, hey, Jay Wright, come on at least as a consultant. Come on.
Right.
But
Right.
yeah, no. I mean,
I
if
want to
you're
know.
regular Villanova basketball. Yikes. But
Yikes.
anyhow.
Yeah. I want to know like what your thoughts are on the price of stars now in trades. Like if Bridges is going for this much, and obviously the Gobert trade set the precedent.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I just think it's worth it. Like, depending on your situation and your team, it just depends on. But like for the Knicks, you look at it, and you're like, you know what? Screw our five first round picks. Like, we feel like Mikal Bridges is our final piece of the puzzle. We can piece together a rim running big, whether it's like a Nick Richards or it's not JaVale McGee, but a JaVale McGee like, where hey, just a rim running big who doesn't demand the ball. If you're the Knicks, I like it. But when you're the Minnesota Timberwolves and you're trading for a guy like Rudy Gobert, or even if you're the Pacers and you're like, let's go trade a bunch of assets and a bunch of money for Pascal Siakam, that's where I don't like these high price for superstars. But this one's different, I think.
Yeah, I agree. The problem to me is like this is how much they paid for him, and Bridges he's not a tier 1 guy. He's not a tier 2 guy in the league. He's maybe in that like tier 3 of player, and he can make a jump. Don't get me wrong, and he could be awesome this year, and we'll see him in the All-Star game, or he could just continue to be play a solid role, which is valuable in the NBA. But that many picks for that kind of guy makes me wonder like, what happens if Kevin Durant gets traded again, or what happens if one of these big stars wants out?
Yeah, I was gonna say I think it has to be one of these other big stars like. What does Giannis get? If Giannis says, hey, I want to leave Milwaukee, I want to go wherever, what does Giannis demand? Is it 7 first-round picks? Is it 6 first-round picks? Is it the max amount of first-round picks you're allotted to trade?
Right. Yeah.
Because Kevin Durant, he's like kind of, he's getting older, so
sure.
It's less, and he'll have some weird trade demands probably. But, like, Devin Booker, who's been in trade talks, like, why would Devin Booker 6, 7 first-round picks? Is that crazy? 7, 8? Like, whatever the allotted amount is, you probably just have to give up all your allotted first-round picks for him.
Yeah, that looks like what it would be right now. That's not crazy to say because Bridges just got 6 or 5. Like
6, 5,
it's 5, I think.
5, and then swaps. Yeah,
that's right.
And you're giving up all your swaps and everything. Yeah, I think. What about Bronny James? What does Bronny James get? Dude.
Also underrated. Have the Knicks kind of like pulled out of the Giannis sweepstakes if that were to happen?
I think so.
They traded away all their stuff now?
Yeah, I think this shows, and then hopefully you get and I think this also proves they're out of the Donovan Mitchell sweepstakes.
Yeah, which is fine. They don't want Donovan Mitchell now. I think
Donovan Mitchell's Brooklyn net. Yeah. That's what this is all gearing towards.
Yeah. No, the Knicks made the right move there. They've really been making some good moves, Karter. Let's give them a shout out.
That's the craziest thing, the James Dolan conversation. Imagine saying to yourself, 5, 6 years, 2019, right before COVID, you're like, James Dolan's like, he's not like the joke owner of the league by any stretch of the imagination now. Like, because you look at it now, I mean, and also business decisions, the Sphere in Vegas, that's James Dolan. Great move. Right. Seems awesome. It's just selling out every night. The James Dolan thing is unbelievable that it's shifted this much. And Michael Jordan's out of the league, so I guess he doesn't have much competition of being the worst owner there. But isn't it crazy? Like, think about in when did Matt Ishbia, the Suns owner, I can't pronounce his name.
Matt Ishbia?
Ishbia, sorry. When he took over the team and he trades for Kevin Durant, could you imagine, like, he's kind of like, all right, like, I kind of want to deal with this guy now. Like, and everyone's like, ooh, the Suns, they're going to be competing. They're in the finals. And now you're like, I don't mind trading with Matt Ishbia.
Right. Yeah, it's like, we have this guy. Why don't we call Matt up, see what he wants for him? Yeah. We want to get rid of this guy anyway.
Let's call A-Rod up at the Minnesota Timberwolves. Let's see what he'll do. Let's see if he'll give us 9 first-round picks for Mark Williams.
It's like A-Rod's like, man, I love Patrick Williams, but I just don't have anything left. I spend it all.
Gosh, dude, I would give you 6 first-round picks for Patrick Williams, but Josh Giddey, I would give up 4 first-round picks. Only if I had him still.
Yeah. The general manager's taking it out of my hands. I don't know.
Yeah, I know. Exactly. But anyhow, let's take a quick break and then let's do the draft. NBA draft time.
Do we have to do it?
We have to do it. We have to do it. We don't have to go long on it. This is the worst NBA draft ever. It's been documented a bunch, whatever. I've done my prep. I've done a lot of prep for this, more than I'd like to have done. I don't love anybody. I mean, I'm just going to say the same thing everybody else is saying at this point. I don't love anybody. Let's start at the top of the draft, the Atlanta Hawks. It looks like Reece Shea is going to go to the Hawks. I'm not the biggest fan of his. I think he's just a catch-and-shoot guy in the league. I don't think he'll ever develop into this star player. I could be wrong. I could be looking at this clip could be terrible years from now. I think the craziest thing is that we're having a player who is not even a number one overall pick caliber player, and Alex Sarr, saying, I don't want to play for the Atlanta Hawks. I want to play for the Washington Wizards. I don't want to be the number one pick in the NBA draft. Like, I think this conversation, I don't think we're clearly seeing how insane this draft is, that players who are typically, let's be honest, Alex Sarr in any other draft is end of the lottery. End of the lottery, 14, 15, 16 probably. And he's sitting there saying, making demands, being like, I'm not going number one. I want to go to the Wizards. That's crazy.
That's crazy. We should just call this, we label this like the role player draft. Like
which is fine.
Who can get the best role player? Which is, because role players are important. I mean, look at the Celtics. Like, again, like we talked about, you look at that team and like role players really carry them there. Like, you need those guys, but this is what this draft is. If you can find the best role player, you've won this draft. Like, congratulations to you.
And there's like every single prospect you look at in this draft, 1 through 100, there is one major flaw about a player. Like one major flaw that makes you go, I don't feel comfortable about taking him there. Every single player, whether it's Reed Shepherd, you're like, he's too short. I don't know how much I love that. Then you're like Stephon Castle. I don't love his 3-point shooting. Dalton Connect. I don't love his defense. Can he be a connector on offense? Get it?
Yeah, I get it.
See there, yeah. But then you're like, in these international prospects, you're like, I don't love their jump shots, or I don't love their motor. There's a huge flaw in all of these prospects. And we went back and remember when we did the Austin Reeves thing and we got blasted for it online, and we said no for R.J. Barrett, and everyone blasted us online and whatnot. I would still take the number one. I might take R.J. Barrett.
Okay, that's insane. All right.
But like, just because the contract, I just don't want R.J. Barrett's contract. If R.J. Barrett was on a rookie deal, I'm taking R.J. Barrett. Like, we talked about this. We're texting about this with the Caruso-Giddey trade. Right now, would you rather have the number one overall pick? If you're the Atlanta Hawks, would you rather have the number one overall pick, or would you rather have Josh Giddey?
I think, that's tough, but I think you'd still with the pick. Giddey comes with some baggage.
That's the problem. It's the off-the-court baggage that, we all don't know exactly what's going on. I don't really know, but the upside is there. He's shown he can be a borderline all-star level player, and he can, be a great teammate, and he can pass the ball. The jump shot's somewhat questionable, but like the talent's there for Josh Giddey. I don't think anybody in this draft has the upside of Josh Giddey.
I think that's hard to say. You just never know. Like, there's potential in these dudes, right? Like, yeah. Sarr's huge, and he can handle the ball. Like, if you have those things, like, you never know. I'm not saying I love him by any means, but
I'm not. The more homework you do, you read articles and all this stuff, and you watch the tape, there's a lot of I have huge red flags about Alex Sarr. Like, if the Hornets were picking at number 2, the Hornets would be drafting Alex Sarr. That's how I want to judge this, because there's so many red flags, and the Hornets would be like, yes, that's our guy, Alex Sarr. Come on in. And I could be, this could come out, and this could be, on the Washington Wizards, social media next year when he wins Rookie of the Year, and they're like, look at this idiot saying Alex Sarr wasn't going to be amazing. But I don't see it. I don't
either. Yeah, we're at that time of the year, though, where you listen to podcasts and stuff, and everyone's talked themselves into it. Like, I kind of sneaky love this draft. And you're like,
it's like the NFL draft, where you're like, during the college football season, you're like, oh, Jane Daniels, like, he's going to be, a solid quarterback. Or Michael Penix, I like Michael Penix, but, he's a late first-rounder kind of thing. But then you see him work out in shorts, and the more and more you do research, the more and more you talk about it, the more and more you have pressure on your job as a GM. the more and more you're like, I wouldn't hate getting a quarterback in here, and then the price of quarterbacks goes up as it gets closer to the draft, and all of a sudden you're like, am I really taking Michael Penix as a top 10 pick? Am I really taking Jaden Daniels number 2 overall? Like, I liked how they worked out in shorts, and you talk yourself into it, and that's kind of what we're doing with these guys right now, like Reese Ashe, Sarr, and Klingon we had enough tape on, but you're also like, okay, what's Klingon's ceiling?
Yeah, like the thing with Klingon for me is like where does he fit in today's NBA? Like big guys, big paint dudes are extinct, and I hate to say it. Like the closest we have to it is Derek Lively, who is a serious like lob threat, and who sneaky might be able to shoot it. Who knows, right?
I've been saying that.
He hit a shot there in the finals.
I've been saying it. Yeah, I've been saying it, but go ahead.
But like as far as 7 foot plus guys who are just trying to post up and do that thing, like those guys can't be more than role players because that's just not how the league is played anymore. Like Zach Edey,
that's what I wanted to get into. That I wanted to get into Zach Edey.
Let's do it right now. Why are we projecting that guy to the lottery? No offense.
I don't know.
But like, what is he going to do in the NBA?
The biggest problem is nobody's talking about is, yes, it's hard when any big guy gets switched onto an NBA guard, but we've seen it in college. He can't guard college guards on the switch. We saw against UConn. They were attacking him on the pick and roll every time. What do you think an NBA defense is going to do? Let's think about a team that's on the lower half of the league. Like, what is Cade Cunningham going to do to Zach Edey on a switch pick and roll? Like, he's going to get absolutely burned. I don't understand why Zach Edey's being talked about as a top 10 lottery pick in this draft. Like, he's Baughan. He's just Baughan reincarnated. And, like, if that's what you want, great, I guess. But that's not a lottery pick. I would rather go with one of these international guys and swing for the fences than rather take a guy like Zach Edey, where I know his ceiling. He's older. I know he can't play. He can't be an elite defender. If he gets switched, it's barbecue chicken from here on out. I mean, think about Zach Edey in a playoff series. He won't be on the court. He will not be on the court because he'll get switched and attacked every single time.
Yeah, people. The days of Kareem and Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain are over. It's a skill league now, and people have been saying like about Klingon and Edey like shades of Roy Hibbert. Roy Hibbert's out of the league for a reason.
There's a reason Roy Hibbert was out of the league right after that Pacers playoff run. And the other thing too is people are like, well, you look at Jokic and Embiid. It's like Embiid's probably one of the most dominant scorers in this league. He can also shoot. These guys can also shoot the three very well. They have a legitimate three-point threat, and Jokic is the best passer in this league. Edey's not that great of a passer, and imagine this dude gets double-teamed in the NBA. Like, what is he going to do?
He can't dribble the ball.
I don't understand the Zach Edey stuff at all. I don't get it, but these teams are falling in love with him. I guess he was great in workouts. Like, I guess you watch the first half of that national championship game, you're like, that's the Zach Edey we're getting. And I'm like, are you?
The thing is, the style of play, it's a style of play to me, Karter. It's so, like, the national championship game, it was like post up, Klingon versus Edey. Yeah. Like, in the NBA, when's the last time you saw a straight-up post-up that wasn't from, like, a wing trying to get a fadeaway or anything?
You'll get Embiid in the post, but he's so dominant.
But the amount of times Embiid turns around and shoots a jump shot instead of, like, actually trying to do, like, a baby hook is, like, 90%. He never, like, does traditional post moves because it's a different league. It's a skill league. It's a shooting league. And I hate to say it about Klingon because I like him obviously better than Edey, but I don't really see where he fits in today's NBA other than just like a 15 minutes kind of night a guy who can play good defense and maybe like run the rim. But that's kind of like the capacity of his game.
But that's the thing. That's not the worst thing, though. Like, we talk about Klingon, like, essentially, it's a lot of this has been is, can you get a Derek Lively in this draft? And I think Klingon, you can get a Derek Lively. Like, I think that's what it is, and that's not a bad thing. I mean, if you get Derek Lively in this draft, I mean, you are home run. Derek Lively goes 1-1 if he gets slaughtered in this draft right now. No questions asked. And if you get Derek Lively, it's a great draft. And I think that's what Klingon can be.
Right. I think, yeah, and I agree. I don't want to be slamming Klingon because I like him better than most. It's just he just lacks a lot of the athleticism that maybe Derek Lively would have. And
it's just so tough because if we're talking about Klingon in a normal draft where he's going 10 through 14, you're like, I don't hate it. But when you're talking about him 1 overall or 2 or 3, you're like, I don't love this.
Yeah, and
it's so hard to differentiate ourselves. Like it's been cliche to start the draft at 7, but it's so true because guess what? This draft is not good. I've said it 1,000 times. Real quick, let's talk about guys you like in this draft. Who's a guy like you're like? Obviously, I know you said role players and whatnot. Is there a specific guy you're like I'm in on? If you don't, I have a guy right off the top.
No, I do. I was thinking this, and he's got mixed opinions. I really like Steph Castle, Karter.
Oh,
like, I honestly really do. Like, the shooting's not there, and I've seen that, and his offensive game is in question. But I think he's the kind of guy you can just plug into any team, and he can really figure out like what to do. Like, it's a lot about skill. Like, he's obviously a skilled guard, but it's more about like his just work ethic at UConn and the brand of basketball he played. Works on every team, right?
Yep.
Great defense. He always is trying. And I think he's the kind of guy that can work on his jump shot, right? And he can get better at it. And we've seen dudes come in the league with questionable shooting and make that change, right? I don't know why he comes to pop my head, but Grant Williams, right, became like a pretty knockdown shooter for the Celtics. Jaylen Brown did the same thing, right? Where now he's obviously Finals MVP.
But like Kawhi Leonard set that precedent where I think he cost so many GMs their job. They're like, we can fix this guy. You know,
right.
he's the disaster boyfriend or girlfriend. You're like, I can fix him.
Right.
No, you can't.
But with Castle, like, if you want to be like, I can fix his shooting. Worst case scenario, he can't figure out to shoot. I still like what I have. I still like the effort. I still love the defense. I still love his basketball mind and the savvy he has. So I think if I was to go like safest bet in this draft to just like he's gonna be in the league for a while. He's gonna be in there for 10 years. I'd pick Steph Castle.
I don't think that's a bad pick. I like Castle too, and also because one at the bare minimum, you're getting an elite perimeter defender.
Yeah.
I think you're getting an elite perimeter defender. Yeah, he can work on the shot, even if that doesn't come. Okay, he still can handle the ball, and I think the best part about I think a huge part about what I like about him is he was able to accept a role at UConn. I think that's a huge thing. Like we talked about Derek Lively. Derek Lively was able to accept that role as a rim running big at Duke. And was, Steph Castle and Derek Lively forced to do that on these better teams at Duke and UConn? Probably. But they were still able to accept that role and excel in that role. And so I think that's a huge thing in this draft. We're talking about this as a role player's draft. I think that's a great thing. And if you get them at, 4, 5, 6, I think that's fine. I think that's a win. I really do. Yep. What do you think about Reed Sheppard?
He's like the most like upside in this draft for me as far as like you could be getting something awesome in this dude.
Really?
I think so because of all the problems we talked about with Sarr and Richachet. But like with Reed, right, the shooting numbers are crazy. Just absolutely absurd from the 3-point line. And then his ability to see the court, pass the ball, like get into the lane with the emergence of some of these small guards like Brunson and Trae Young and whatnot. Like Reed Sheppard could be that kind of guy that we look at years back and be like, how did he not go 1-1? Like we saw all the things there. He's, and the combine numbers are stupid, but like he had the highest vert. Like this is an athletic dude who can shoot the heck out of the ball and get to the rim if he wants. He's a little undersized. That's like the only thing. The
undersized thing really hurts me if he's going to be handling the ball that much. And I don't love his ability to create his own shot. I love his catch and shoot. I don't necessarily love his ability to create his own shot against NBA defenses.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. Like,
an NBA size.
I think Reed Sheppard's the kind of guy that if you put on a top 10 team, he's going to be awesome right away. But if he has to, his usage rate's too high, like you're saying, he has to create his own shot. It could be like a bit of a problem with him. But I see him being plugged into a good team and being awesome. The problem is he's going to get drafted by Pistons, Blazers, who knows?
Yeah, or Hornets. Yeah, exactly. And so the Peyton Pritchard comps are going to go crazy with Reed Sheppard.
Right, but he can be better than Peyton Pritchard, but
I think he can be for sure. The size really scares me, and like I said, his ability to create his own shot against an NBA defense really scares me, where I think he's an elite shooter. There's no question about that, and he'll be able to shoot in the NBA. It's just whether he can create that shot. Dalton Connect. I love Dalton Connect. I know the holes in Dalton Connect's. I know the red flags in his bio and his player, bio, whatever. He's older. He doesn't play great defense, and he didn't have the great assist numbers. But I'll go back to the assist numbers. I'll defend him because who else on that Tennessee team were you asking to create a bucket? He was asked to do so much on that Tennessee team where, hey, our offense is breaking down. We know the Rick Barnes offense. It's a disaster typically. Our offense is breaking down. Don't connect. Bail us out. One-on-one. Go get us a bucket. I love that. I don't think there's a better one-on-one go get me a bucket guy in this draft. And I think that's so critical that you need. And he has good size. He's super athletic. And I just think he's a guy, you can give him the ball, he can go get a bucket. People like to say, oh, well, that's Doug McDermott. Doug McDermott didn't have the athleticism Don't connected, though. Doug McDermott wasn't yamming on dudes in college. And I mean, Don't Connect has that different kind of athleticism where he almost floats. Like, you're like, oh, it's like, you know what I'm talking about. But I think, like, the defense does concern me. I think that could be a liability in the NBA. But I think he's athletic enough where he could get past that. And maybe that was just a thing at Tennessee where it's like, I don't need to play effing defense. I don't care. Like, whatever. But I don't think there's a better guy in this draft where I can say, hey, here's the ball. Go get me a bucket. And I think that's so critical. He's going to be able to score at in the NBA level. So why are we not talking about him as a top 5 pick?
Yeah, I think it's just like the age thing, which is weird to me. I mean, but he is like 5 years older than Reed Shepherd. So that's
because he's 23, right?
Connects, I think, 24.
I'll look that up, but keep going.
I think, I have it right here. He's actually 23. So he's about 4 years older than Reed Shepherd. But I agree with you, and I love that's everything there. He seems pretty NBA ready. It's just like I think he's more of a gamble just because of the way that his game fits in the NBA. Like, he can get his own shot, but a lot of the stuff at Tennessee,
his game fits perfectly for the NBA because he's going to have so much more space to work with.
I mean, but he's going to have more elite defenders on him, and a lot of stuff at Tennessee, like, he was hitting crazy shots. Like,
I know that's the thing is he can hit those shots.
I know, but and this is like not the greatest analysis, but sometimes we see these dudes in college, the guys who do like the magical, crazy, wacky stuff. It never pans out in the pros.
Yeah, but that's more so with these guards like Jimmer Fredette or Marshall Henderson or those. It's these guard types that are just. I mean, Kemba is probably the wrong example because he was awesome in the NBA, but
Right.
Shabazz Napier, where they're just hitting ridiculous shots. I feel like that happens with guards. I feel like with wing players who can create and get their own shot, I feel like these guys slot into the NBA.
True, and that's why I think he's a really good bet, and I could see him being pretty awesome right away. Like, Rookie of the Year stuff should not be out of the question with him, and people should be looking at those odds. Because can this guy be Gordon Hayward? Because that's the only comp we can come up with him. He could, but could he be? Could he be Ron Baker or Sam Decker? He could also be that. It could also very not pan out.
Yeah, but I think he's just a much better shooter than what Sam Decker was, and I think he's more athletic than Ron Baker was.
It's true.
So I love Dalton Connect, and he's just a guy that he's so confident too.
Yeah, trustworthy.
Smart, scrappy, gym rat. No, he's just a guy. He just has so much confidence when you watch his game, and he's so in control. I love that. And just a lot of these guys in the draft, we watch Reed Shepherd. I think it's more of a young thing with Reed Shepherd, but when you watch Reed Shepherd, especially in the NCAA tournament against Oakland, he was out of control. He was getting flustered. Him and Dillingham were like, oh, okay, this is way too much pressure right now. Dalton Connect was in control every single game, and the only reason Tennessee wasn't moving on to the Final Four is because they went against a much better team in Purdue and against Zach Edey, who fits the college game. Back to Zach Edey real quick. This guy's 22, 23, 24, and he's still being talked about as a top 10 pick. There's some mocks that have him above Dalton Connect in some places. It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't.
So
we've shared our Edey stuff.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah.
Yeah, no. Real quick, Jared McCain. Jared McCain's going to be a guy that everyone's going to talk themselves into in the late lottery, mid first rounds. I think you're just getting Reed Shepherd in I don't think he has as good of a handle, but I think they're both just going to be catch and shoot guys in the NBA.
Yeah. Jared McCain to me, and there's 50% of the guys in this draft are guys that I'm I think another year of college would have been really awesome for you.
Yeah.
And McCain's one of those dudes.
But I don't know about that with McCain because The only way I think it would have been better for him is if he was able to, bring the ball up and handle the ball, and he wasn't going to be able to do that at Duke.
Are you sure?
Yeah, he needs to be able to handle the ball because I don't like his handle. Trust me, I watched every minute of Duke last season.
I know.
He's another guy where I struggle. I don't see how he's ever going to be able to create his own shot in the NBA because I think his handle is stiff. I think he's got a tight handle. I think he can, it's great when he's driving to the rim, but when he needs to create his own shot and create space from a defender as an undersized player, I don't love his handle enough, but he can shoot from 40 feet out.
Yeah, that's true. And I think a lot of these guys, these undersized guards that we have problems with, right? Like McCain, or even with Shepherd, we're talking about like, elite shooters. They're just like not the handle we want, not be able to create. Like these guys can be awesome if they learn to kind of fit in their role. And I think McCain is the kind of kid to be like, all right, like I'm just going to do what it takes to win and like be the best. Like, can I work on my passing? Can I get my teammates open and then hit shots when I need to? Can I work on my handle, maybe be more trustworthy with the ball and be able to be a facilitator and a shooter? Because like that might be it. And he could be awesome, right? And that's what you need on teams. He's never going to be, obviously that's obvious. He's never going to be the number one guy on a team, but if he can fit that role and figure out, like he'd be very valuable.
He's in the perfect spot in this draft, I think, because I think if Reed Shepherd's in this spot, the back end of the lottery, into the these like fringe playoff teams like the Warriors, the Heat, the Thunder, like in that range, that's a dream scenario. That's why I think McCain's going to end up going to just a better situation, and that's going to help his career because situation is going to matter for it. It always matters, but especially for this draft, situation is going to be everything in this draft because there's a real chance we're sitting there talking about, Denver's 29th pick is the best player in this draft. Just because of the fit, just because, hey, the guy's got an easy life playing with Nikola Jokic.
Yeah, no, it's 100% true, right? And McCain could land on someone like the Magic and just literally just sit there and shoot all day, and he could be averaging.
I love that. I love him on the Magic.
He could be averaging like 12 a game.
They need 3-point shooting. Let's get Jared McCain to the Magic.
Yeah, and he could be awesome. It's just
Jared McCain to the Thunder. I don't want him on the Heat though, even though like he will be successful in the Heat and it'll work out. Right. I just don't want him on. I just don't like the Heat.
Yeah. It's just, I think the draft is a lot more about fit than I think people give credit for because we try to make basketball such an individual game with our discourse about players and whatnot. And we do this with draft people, right? Mm-hmm. Like, it's all about fit. Can these guys find the right situation to thrive in? And unfortunately for a lot of these guys, they're not as good as they should be to be landing on these crappy teams.
Yep.
Right? When we talk about Shepherd and even like Kling and Sarr, Sarr got to sit behind someone great for a while. He could be awesome, but the fact that he's going to have to go to what it looks like the Wizards and expect to put up like at least 12 shots a night, it's not going to be great. If he can steal the ball from Jordan Poole, of course.
that Wizards team. Who's the player that you are 100% out on in this draft outside of Zach Edey?
Outside of Zach Edey.
Because we're both 100% out on Zach Edey.
Yes, that's an easy pick. I don't get the Nikola topic. Any smoke there.
Really?
I'm pretty out on him.
Yeah, the injury scares me. That's why. Like the guy coming in with a torn ACL, and he already had a lot of question marks surrounding his game, especially around his jump shot. That's where I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, he's an okay shooter. I mean, like 30% isn't awful. 2.3 turnover margin. It's not even 6'6". It's like there's not a lot for me to be like, oh wow, this guy's amazing. Like, could he be like the best case scenario for him is like, oh, he's like he can get in, he gets minutes.
Yeah,
he's gonna be all right. But yeah,
I understand because of the size and the unteachable abilities or whatever of Cody Williams, but I'm not a Cody Williams guy. Like, I just think he disappears in games. Like, that's the one thing I loved about Dalton, going back to Dalton Connect. Dalton Connect didn't disappear in games. It was, hey, this is the Dalton, like, hey, when the game gets tight, give me the ball. I want the ball. I want to be the guy. I want to go in and get that bucket. I didn't see that with a lot of these guys in this draft. Like, you guys looking at later, like, Stephon Castle didn't have to play that role. It was going to be Tristan Newton or someone else on that UConn team. And so I'm all in on Dalton Connect. I just keep getting back to that.
Yeah.
I want Dalton. I want it right here. I'm going to manifest the draft tonight. Right now, we're recording Wednesday morning before the draft. I want to manifest Dalton Connect to the Hornets. Now, if Stephon Castle goes to the Hornets, I'm going to sit here and be like, yeah, I'm pumped about that. It seems like the Hornets are going to go Shepard, Connect, or Castle. I think it's one of those three.
Yeah.
I'm Connect, Castle, Shepard.
Okay. Well, let's go Hornets, all right?
Yeah.
Hope they're listening to this.
Yeah. Dalton Connect. Dalton Connect to the Hornets. Please.
Yeah. Back on your Cody Williams take real quick. I just don't like his body language. And like you say, he disappears. Yeah. It's like you see him, and if he ever has like a bad game or just like misses a few shots, you're kind of like, all right, like what are you gonna do? And he kind of just gets all slouchy, and you're like, the talent's there. He's just something about the way he approaches the game and maybe his attitude is not my favorite.
A couple more players I want to touch on, and then we'll get out of here. I also don't understand the Jacoby Walters thing. We saw Jacoby Walters play multiple times this season. When you watch the Baylor teams and you go back and watch Baylor tape, you ask yourself, so which guy's supposed to be the one that's supposed to be a lottery pick? And when you ask that question, when you watch a team, I see that's a giant red flag. When I watch the game and I go, so which one of these guys is going to be an NBA draft pick, supposed to be a bona fide lottery pick, first-round pick? I don't see the guy on the court. That's a huge red flag to me. And that was Jacoby Walters. It felt like all his other teammates were just as good, if not better than him in a lot of these games last year for Baylor. But just because of his size and his youth, he's supposed to be this guy that's supposed to go lottery.
Yeah. You and I seen him in person 3 or 4 times over the course of the season. As BYU guys, we would sit there and we would say, Jacoby Walters strikes zero fear into my heart.
No.
I am not at all afraid of him when he gets the ball. And so, like, from our perspective, it was, like, so obvious that this guy, like, he's going to get drafted, but I don't see a lot there. That's a good pick as far as, like, guys that won't work out. Because Jacoby Walters, I was not worried about him at all. Never.
Yeah, he's got a lot of AAU in his game.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of Cam Reddish, AAU style guy. He's got a lot of that in his game. I think a lot of guys in this draft have that. But like going back, like that's why I really like a guy like Dalton Connect, where he does strike the fear in defenders, where defenders are scared of him, and you're planning around Dalton Connect. So Reed Shepard can be that guy too. Jared McCain, you're scared when he has the ball. And so and that's more so, okay, is he a three-point threat? But like Jacoby Walters was a three-point threat, and he still didn't strike that fear into you because I just think he was so, as Zion Williamson would say, lackadaisical on the court.
Lackadaisical?
Lackadaisical. That's it. Lackadaisical on the court. So yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of his. Kyle Filipowski, I think, is going to be the funniest pick of the draft. I was texting with you. Kyle Filipowski's can either reach, I think his potential is, Al Horford level, where he's kind of that stretch big and can play that role. Can be a three-point threat, whatnot. He also could fall down to the Frank Kaminsky side of things. I think that's the range for Kyle Filipowski.
I think, and you're not going to like this as a Duke guy, I think the range from Kyle goes below Frank Kaminsky. He could be...
No, you can't. No, Frank Kaminsky was barely in the league as the 9th overall pick.
He was he was like a 9-year vet. He still stayed for a while.
I don't know why.
Filipowski could be out of the league in like 4 years, and I wouldn't be shocked. That's where I'm at with Filipowski.
If you would have told me Frank Kaminsky was out of the league in 4 years, though, you were like, yeah, that checks out.
True. Like you never saw his face that much.
You don't even remember 9 years. Name one Frank Kaminsky moment in 9 years. I was a Hornets fan.
Good games with the Hornets
fan, and I can't tell you a Frank Kaminsky moment.
I remember he hit a game winner with the Hornets once. I remember that.
Yeah. Are you positive?
I think so.
Exactly. You're not positive. Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. Like, the floor is Frank Kaminsky.
Well, I think that, like, Filipowski could be a guy that we're like, I don't even see, like, he gets like 5 minutes a game, maybe. Like, for Kaminsky, at least he got on the court, all right? We saw him play NBA basketball. Filipowski could be a guy we never actually see. He could be in the G League in 2 years, and I'd be like...
No, he'll be on the... every single one of these dudes, 1 through 60, are going to be in the G League. In the G League in year 1. Every single one of them. They should be.
Karter, could Summer League be kind of awesome? Because every guy in the draft's going.
Yes, and I think every guy in the draft is going to play a lot more than they typically would.
Right.
I think we're going to see lottery picks playing. You're like, huh, really? Why is the number 12 pick playing in week 2 of the summer?
It's like it's crunch time, and they're like,
could you imagine, like, think about those NBA beat writers that are having to, like, they go to the full summer league thing, and they're there week 2 typically, and they're like, oh my gosh, dude, I'm not even watching the Greensboro Swarm. I'm watching the Greensboro Swarm try. Right.
It's like, where did this guy play at college? NAU.
Yeah, you're like, oh my gosh, he only averaged 9.5 points a game in the Big Sky. What? Like, and that's, but week 2 of the summer league might be awesome this year.
It might, and not even that, but like the year after, when all these guys are sophomores, and we still see them in the summer league with all this great class, could be really good.
Can I make this prediction right now?
Let's hear it.
I think this year's summer league is going to produce the craziest takes of all time. I think if a guy in this draft, whether a random 6th, 7th, 8th, or 15th pick in this draft, drops like 25 in a summer league game, everybody's going to be like, why did he drop this far? This guy's going to be awesome. He's the best player in this draft. We are going to get the craziest summer league takes in history because we don't know a lot about these guys in this draft. There's a lot of holes. And if we see a guy perform right away, the recency bias from everyone is going to be out of control. And we're all going to fall in love with that guy when he drops 25 against the Cavs Summer League roster in Cox Pavilion.
You know who that is going to be? It's going to be Dalton Connect. That guy's going to go for 40 one of these nights.
I think Dalton Connect's going to be the guy you're like, ooh, he shot 3 for 19 in Summer League. I'm very concerned about Dalton Connect. A lot of red flags. I think Jared McCain could be that guy. I think Jared McCain could be a guy where all of a sudden you're like, you dropped 24 in the Summer League? I feel like it has to be a guard, though, because I feel like it has to be one of these like scoring point guards where they are just dominating the ball the whole time, and you're like, oh my gosh, like he's not. Remember the Walker Kessler year at Auburn? You're like, why isn't Jabari Smith getting the ball? It's just because the guards would take the dumbest shots. Like that Auburn team was just a Summer League team put in college basketball, where you're like, oh my gosh, give the ball to Jabari Smith or Walker Kessler. I don't want to see you shoot a contested 3 again.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it.
I can't wait for summer. I'm going to tune. I haven't decided if I'm going to go or not, but I kind of want to go.
What's going to happen when Bronny James has like 17, 5, and 4?
If Bronny James drops 20 points in the first Summer League game, the world might burn. The world's going to explode. If Bronny James, let's say Bronny James drops a triple-double in Game 1 of the Summer League. It's Saturday. It's a Friday night Summer League game right after the 1 versus 2 game. And it's the Lakers Summer League team. Bronny James drops like 17, 11, and 10 on efficient shooting. Everybody is. Well, the other thing is he could drop 20 on 5 of 20. You know what I do? That's what I want. I want the Lakers to say, Bronny James, this is your team. This is your Summer League team. Like, it's all you. And Bronny James is just like, he's shooting 25, 30 times a game in the Summer League. And people are like, Bronny James is a problem. He dropped 21 in the Summer League on 5 of 31 shooting. That's what I want. I think that's the best case scenario for this Summer League because then everyone's be like, dang, Bronny James isn't that bad. It's like, he took 31 shots.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. It's either going to be that or it's going to be like, he has 3, he has 3, and 3. And we're like, he fits into the role. He sacrifices shots. He set great screens.
Well, what if Clutch makes him load manage in the Summer League? They're like, yeah, he's not playing.
He's not playing tonight.
Yeah, he's not playing tonight. Like, personal reason, hamstring. Like, yeah, Clutch doesn't let him play in the Summer League. That would be so on brand.
What are the odds they're just like, he doesn't need to play Summer League? He's ready.
Ooh,
he's ready.
Yeah, look, he's pro ready.
He's working out with his dad. He doesn't need Summer League.
That's good. I think that does happen. No, we need him for Summer League. We need to see him.
The NBA needs him for the ratings. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm going to tune in.
Yeah, of course. Well, we're sickos, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to tune in to watch Jared McCain on the Thunder drop 25. So I'm probably going to go to that game if we're being honest. We'll 2 things real quick. Is there a random late in the draft guy you like?
Share yours.
Harrison Ingram from Carolina.
Okay.
I think Harrison Ingram's going to be a guy where we're like, man, that was a great pick at 29. That was awesome. He's going to be a guy, he can shoot the ball decently well, great defender, as a great teammate. I think Harrison Ingram's going to be he's going to have a long career in the NBA. I think he's a guy that you're sitting there, you're like, wow, like he's very good. I'm very happy he's on his team because he's going to go to a better team. He's going to go to a Denver or a Boston, not Boston necessarily, but a Boston or a Denver, one of these better teams where you're like, yeah, I really like Harrison Ingram. He's going to fit in with any team, especially a good one.
I like that pick. I'm going to go with Jalen Bridges from Baylor. As much as we just crapped on Jacoby Walters, when we watched Bridges, we're like, he stood out. This guy's good, and he's 6'9". He can shoot the heck out of the ball. Like, that's what you want in today's NBA, right?
Yeah. Athletic
wing who can shoot it. So, and again, he's the kind of guy, I mean, I don't even know where he's mocked, and he's somewhere in the late 40s. So if he lands on he could land on a great team, and we're like, Jalen Bridges is kind of a problem. He could really flourish.
Kind of a has that tweet ever been? Mark Jones is in a game. He's like, Jalen Bridges, kind of a problem. So they don't even say it's a problem. He's like, he's kind of a problem.
Yeah. But I'm just basing it off of like when we watched, we were so scared of Bridges and we weren't scared of Walters, and he's got the height, he's got the shooting. Like, I don't know why. I mean, maybe I do know why people aren't talking about him more. But if I had to stick my neck out for a late round guy,
but like he could easily be a catch and shoot 3-and-D guy.
Yeah, like I said, he's 6'9", Carter. Like
he can shoot.
He can shoot the heck out of the ball. What else do you want?
Yeah, I think that's a great pick. Last thing before we go, I know we touched on Bronny James a little bit, and then we'll get out of here. Real quick, do we think Bronny James is getting drafted today or tomorrow?
I saw a thing. Rich Paul was like, he's gonna get drafted first round. Like we really want that to happen.
Rich Paul's been doing a weird media tour, so I don't know what he's been doing weird stuff.
You can't trust a thing that guy says anyway. Like it's all just,
it's all just okay. I'm protecting my client, which obviously you should do.
He's working it. I think, like, dude. Look, I share my Bronny James take. I got wrecked on Instagram. I still think I'm right. Like, dude, this guy averaged 3 points. Like, he can't get drafted in the first round. He shouldn't be drafted at all. He's going to get drafted.
Yeah, I was about to say, let's double down here. He shouldn't be drafted at all. And, like, look, I understand it's LeBron. Like, well, like, also, like, I understand you want your son to get drafted and whatnot, but, like, why not? Why are you doing that? Like, get him as an unsigned free agent and just bring him on. Like, I don't understand this.
Or just honestly, like, is it that important? Leave him in college. Let him play another year.
Send him to Duquesne. Have your friend who's a coach. Let him run the offense.
Yeah, I really feel bad for him because I think like there's a lot of potential there. He needs more time in college. He needs more time to develop. But he's being forced into this.
He could have been an awesome 4-year college guy. Year 3, 4, you're talking about like, oh, he is a glue guy on a Final Four team. Like he is a legit starting 5 guy on a Final Four team.
The fact, Carter, that this is being rushed, does that say something about LeBron James' career coming to an end?
I mean, yeah, he's 40. What? He's 40. Is he 40 yet?
Not yet, but
39. He's turning 40 this December.
Yeah.
Okay, but either way, I mean, yeah, it proves he probably. I bet LeBron has three more years left.
Max, like that'd be awesome.
He's got 3.
What if the Lakers suck? Which they will.
Because he can put up stats.
Okay.
He can improve his legacy.
But like, why is he rushing this then? If he's like, I got 3 years, why not just like, Bronny, just do 1 more year, and we get 2 years together.
Or maybe he wants Bronny. Well, because I think the main part is why he wants it done now is I think Connor brought this up too when we did this. This is the last. I think this is truly the last point in LeBron's career he has leverage, any sort of leverage. And I think now he realizes, and Clutch realizes, we got to use your leverage now if we want Bronny to get drafted.
It's a good point.
Because if he's 41, 42 on the last year of his deal, and they're like, you've got maybe a year or 2 left in the NBA, they're going to be like, no, we're not drafting your son who should not even be anywhere near draft boards. He's going to be 80, 90 to 100 on most draft boards.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think you're right. And what would be the funniest team to draft Bronny?
Hornets.
No,
it's the Utah Jazz.
Jazz or Celtics? Celtics would be hilarious.
Celtics would be very funny. Celtics. What if LeBron did demand a trade to the Celtics and like LeBron goes to the Celtics because of that?
I wouldn't like it. What do you mean? This team's awesome.
No, I
Clippers. Clippers did it.
No, because like that wouldn't. Because like whatever. Like he's in LA.
The Heat, the Cavs,
the Warriors would be scary. The Warriors would be like, okay, is LeBron going to Golden State? Like that's kind of like the best case scenario for NBA discourse. And if you want like this crazy, NBA podcasting world to explode, is Bronny James goes to Golden State. You're like, oh my gosh, like what is LeBron's cooking up something?
Yeah.
Like obviously Golden State, Dallas, and Phoenix are the ones where you're like, oh, something more is happening.
Yeah,
there.
that's when it would be like legit. Cavs draft him as Braun Bait.
Yeah, I think the Cavs would be another great example of that. I think him going to Charlotte or Utah would be the funniest.
The last place LeBron would ever think about going to.
Yeah, Utah would be the funniest.
Utah would be great
because Utah fans would be because Utah fans are crazy. So
and they'd be like, we're getting LeBron.
Yeah, we're getting LeBron, and they start putting up billboards on I-15, and everyone's buying LeBron James jerseys, and then LeBron doesn't sign with the Jazz, and he forces Bronny to leave. They force a trade out of Bronny, and so then they start burning their LeBron James jerseys that never were, and they're like, "Go have fun with the Lakers, you B-word."
I think they'd use a different word.
All right, let's get out of here. We went long enough. All right, thank you so much for listening. Download SeatGeek app or go to SeatGeek.com. Use code KarterCast for $20 off your first purchase. Terms and conditions to apply. $50 minimum purchase. Follow at Chase_Rogers0, at Connor_Spare, at Carter B8. We have interviews and drafts coming up soon, all of July. We'll probably do a free agency show depending on what more happens. We'll be back, though. Stay tuned. Subscribe. You know the drill. YouTube, like and subscribe. Follow us on social media. We'll see y'all next time. Bye-bye.